Do you want to unplug just for a minute? We'll do just 10 breathing squats together. Just have our eyes either down or closed, whatever's more comfortable for you. Just rocking back on the heels to the toes a few times. And we'll just keep our spine long and broad without being rigid. Roll the shoulders up, back, around and down. Take a nice easy breath in. We'll expand our hands all the way up for a big breath in next time that comes around. And then as we breathe out, we're just going to lower ourselves down to the ground. So with this breathing squat, we can go all the way down as deep as our body allows, or we can just do a very gentle movement, ascending and descending. So it doesn't have to be huge, it can be whatever you're feeling in the moment. It's a nice way just to center yourself at the start of the day, at the end of the day. I just treat it as a moving meditation. I really want to have the breath at the center of this. We'll just do at our own pace, another 5, nice and slow. And then after this last one, we can just slowly keep our body nice and low, keep the head down, raise the hips up. And then we'll just slowly roll the spine up one little bit at a time. And then the head comes up last. As that happens, we'll roll the shoulders back, around and down. Beautiful. Good. Always nice to circulate the body a little bit. So how about we start with your question, Brad, about other training while you're doing the course. So if I'm right, was it you do some hiking and it sounds like some outdoor sports, and you're wondering what's the kind of energy balance or energy expenditure and what you've got to give. So I would treat this as a really good enabler and a complementary service for your body that allows you to do the things that really light you up, So if that is, getting outside, especially if it's, with your family or your partner, and moving your body in a really natural environment, this program should support that. I wouldn't do it in place of that, because I think it's always about we're training. What are we training for? It's like for life, It's to have more fun and more enjoyment in life. So I would always try to make your movement practice or your training practice fit in with your dreams and with your life. Sometimes when I'm onto a new concept, or I'm really got something new, a new teacher in my life, if I'm really kind of frothing on my movement practice, it's genuinely what's lighting me up the most. So I'll do that over surfing some days if I'm really feeling it. So it just tends to go with, how can I be honest with myself and really show up for myself in service of my body, but still prioritize the things that I love doing. So I think it sounds like you're onto it because this is new concepts to you and your body's adjusting. You're putting the balances tip towards this a little bit. There'll probably become a time in a few weeks or even a few months after you've digested more of the material that you're kind of feeling like you've got it on a roll to a point where you only need to have it as like a 20-minute session in the morning, most mornings, and then 1 or 2 days a week you might have a full hour hit out of the session, and then just to maintain your whole body so that you can do all those other things. And then I had a few questions from the first few lessons. First I had a question about diet, and then we'll go to the working in. Someone just asked me simply what's my diet like, for one, and then they also asked do I follow or do I recommend following like an ancestral type of eating, because I suppose some people have seen that I've done a lot of follow the work of Paul Chek, which I have massively, as well as the work of Sally Fallon and the work of Weston A. Price. That's more recent. In the years previously, I had 10 years ago, I had a period of being vegetarian. from there I bounced straight into the higher end of Paleolithic eating, and then so now I'm finding myself in between the two, and I don't subscribe to any ism, whether it's vegetarianism, ketogenic stuff. I love it all. It all serves its purpose. I treat food as a medicine. So I like when I'm eating my best, which is, I try to keep to the 90-10 rule, or 80-20 rule is pretty fair as well. 80% of the time bang on, 20% of the time embrace enjoying and indulging, because that's part of life as well. But when I'm eating at my best, it's eating loads of seasonal vegetables with a little bit of animal protein in most of my meals. That's not all my meals. 2 out of 3 meals I'd say I'd have some animal protein in them, which takes up, again, depending on my energy needs, about 20% of my plate. And I also make sure I have some saturated fat in every meal. So a coconut oil, a butter, a ghee, bone broth is pretty big in my diet as well. And yeah, so it is pretty ancestral. I wouldn't say it's paleo strictly. I have grains a couple of times a week. my body digests brown rice pretty well, so I have that loads. On the weekend, I'm prone to have a croissant if I'm feeling it. So there's nothing too hard and fast about my diet, and I think that the nature of that has allowed me to eat pretty well for the last decade. It's all organic. I try and have as unprocessed food as I can, but it's flexible in every means. I try not to make it to a point that it's not enjoyable. I love my food, and I love the way that food makes me feel, so my tendency is to eat well most of the time, and I don't get too tied down to anything. And I don't, with the nature of this course, it's not something I really want to make rules, hard and fast rules around, because I just think everyone needs to go on their own journey with that. And I offer guidance specifically with my one-on-one clients with that, but on this general nature, eat it clean, organic, chew your food well, eat in the most calm environment you can, and don't eat too much. That's pretty, and like those principles I outlined in the first lesson. So that's kind of my take on diet in the simplest form. Another type of question rolling into the Tai Chi, or the energy in and out, a question which is somewhat related to yours, Brad. How do I know if I need to work out or work in? And I like that question because I ask myself that before I train most days. And I would listen to signs of like how well you slept the night before. If you're getting in bed by 10, ideally up around when the sun rises in your part of the world. For us, it's around 5:36. If you're getting a good 8 hours, you're waking up out of bed with energy. Your body feels like within the first half an hour, you feel like you're pretty restored and repaired after the day before. If you can clench your fist and make a tight fist, that's a good sign that you've got a good amount of energy flowing through your body. If I'm at all able to walk down to my gym, I'm going to be training, but it doesn't mean I'm going to go at 100%. I always try and tailor it to how I'm feeling on the day. If I've got a little bit to give, I'll get my body moving with some energizing exercise, some Tai Chi, or I might roll over the Swiss ball and just check in with my body. And if I've got a bit to give, I'll progress my training from there. But I can literally just show up on the day and determine, especially in the last year since we've had our babies and haven't been getting as much sleep, really being easy on myself as far as like just showing up is the main thing. Putting myself into the position of practice is the main thing. And whether I work in or work out, long term, it's just about showing up for me. I would always encourage you, movement's always going to circulate energy, blood, oxygen through the body. So always try to do some movement, but you just can't give what you don't have. So I'd be really mindful. You can always add a little bit of training onto the next day as you get to know your body. But if you overtrain, you can run down your nervous system, your immune system, and then you leave yourself open to a bit more injury. The probability of injury gets higher. So don't give what you don't have. Again, it's not the most black and white answer, but yeah, on a good week, I'm training my body as far as like challenging my body 3 to 4 times. On a week, like the week before last, I had a pretty cruisy week because I just had a lot going on in my life. I did one what I call training session, and I move my body other days. One day I did a bushwalk, one day I jumped off the pool and swam the length of the beach and caught some waves just with my body. Other day I did Tai Chi, but it was a pretty cruisy week, and I just allow that for myself as well. And then I save up a bit of energy so that I can give more as well. So I always want to see how I can add energy. I don't want to take away, because that really can drain your body. And for me, when I drain my body, injuries or little niggles in my body seem to inflame more. So just my body has become a lot more, or my nervous system has become a lot more sensitive in the last 2 years since we had our three boys, because our bodies have been pushed closer to the max, I'd say. So it's important for us to check in more. So as I've become more sensitive, I've become more akin to the fact that we all, if you have triplets or not, we've all got busy and stress in our life in some way or another. So it's important to train, have the idea of your movement practice being just that. It's a practice to enable more life force and energy. And if that's what resonates with you, then you'll find it easy to make the call on the day. A more specific question with the Tai Chi is, how do I regulate my breathing? That was from Matt up in Brisbane. So I was going to say, I think what Matt's asking is, when do I breathe in, when do I breathe out? So the easiest explanation for that is when your body is coming closer to the fetal position, so when your body's closing down, you'd usually let the breath out, and then when the body's opening up and expanding, you breathe in. So whether you're doing a breathing squat, breathing out as you're lowering down, breathing in as you're coming up, whether you're going, I'll be 1 second, doing some posture work on the Swiss ball, breathing out, going down, breathing in as you expand. So generally speaking, until we get to the higher octane strength lessons, where the breath does change when you're doing more strength work, you're breathing as your body's coming close to the ground, out as your body's opening, breathing in. A few questions came in about time restraints, which is beautiful, because that's something I believe we can all relate to. The nature of the questions were, first, what if time is a restriction? How do I find time to do it with my busy lifestyle? There was a question about me having a morning routine, and there was also a question about the program being done in the morning or better done in the evening. So, firstly, with regard to time being a restriction, that is something that I believe that's something we can all relate to. And the way that I would answer that, because my life's getting busier, and as that complexity is increased personally, it's made my core values a lot clearer. So the things that are the most important to me become a lot more clear the less time you have. That's what I can share from that. So for me, some of the most important and valuable things in my life are the fact of having some alone time, having some time to move my body, and being out in nature. They're three of my 5 or 6 most valuable things to my life. And so when I'm clear with my core values, so that's the first thing I would ask you, what are the most important things to you? If health is in those top 5, and your movement practice is in those top 5, or if your dream is to improve your body's ability in some way, I would say it's important to make time. And coming from, I'm as busy as the next person, so it's not like I don't have experience with a lack of time and with that scarcity, because it doesn't always work out like that. Sometimes I miss a workout, sometimes I miss my morning meditation, more often than I'd like to admit in the last few weeks, so that's all good. But if it's important to you and if it's up in your core values, it's really important to make it happen, whether that's communicating with the people who are living with you, who are working with you, and just being clear with, this is my time. If time is a restriction and it's possible, I get it done in the morning, so you can just tick it off. And I would just set aside, just start with little bits. If it's five minutes just kind of moving your body from the squat position and just having a little stretch and just kind of exploring the body and doing 3 minutes of breathing practice after that. 5 minutes total, like that would be a win for me. If you've got time to do just 10 breathing squats on your lunch break between work, that would be a win. It doesn't have to be that you set aside an hour 3 to 4 times a week like a normal training program. This is designed to be flexible and to fit in with your life. So do your best to be flexible with that system. Allow it to fit into your life. Even if it's 1 minute of breathing a day, tomorrow we might do 2. The next 2 weeks we might be up to a 20-minute movement practice and feeling really good about ourselves. So on one token, it's not going to work out, if you are a busy person, it's not always going to work out as best as you like it, as you dreamed it up, but really show up for yourself and make sure it's a regular practice, because if it's important to you, you can make it happen. So that's what I'll say about that. And then the next stem off from that was, do I have a morning routine? So this was a lot more structured a couple of years ago before we had our babies, but it's kind of coming now that the boys are getting more sleep and we're getting to more of a routine. I will say that the first hour of your day is one of the most important. I would call it sacred, and the last hour of your day is equally as important. So on a good day, I'm trying to be up out of bed an hour before I have to show up for anyone other than myself. So I want to be able to check in with myself, get myself a warm water. My morning routine looks like this. I get myself a warm water, sit down on the couch. I'll do I try to do a minimum of 10 minutes of just breathing and meditation, and sometimes I get a full 20 minutes in, other times I don't. I'll get breakfast ready for my babies and my wife. She gets up, I get out the door, and I get to work another 20 minutes before I see anybody. So I've really got time to soak in the day, say good day to myself, check in with how I'm feeling. I might do a journal entry or something like that if it comes up, but I really want to keep the first hour of the day only mine and no one else's. And that way my cup's full enough to then be able to offer my service to others. And whether you're in a service business or not, I think it's equally important. We've all got people we need to show up for in our life, whether it's our loved ones, family, kids, or people at work. So if you can keep the first hour, it might be half an hour for you initially for yourself, and it's definitely a good formula for me. And the evening as well is to do something, again, try to not just, I try not just to get straight on the screen after work. I try and turn my phone off on an aeroplane before I leave my place of work, so I can walk home. And I'm lucky I walk to work and walk from work. But I try and walk home from work undistracted, give myself some slow breaths before I enter into home person again. So I just try and break these days up for myself. Pretty much a balance between really checking in with yourself, and then the other side of that is to kind of not BS yourself as well. For me and a lot of clients, I open these little gates and say, hey, you got to check in with yourself. And sometimes people use that against me and say, yeah, I checked in on myself and I don't have the energy today. But I'm like, but you said that like 10 days in a row. What are we doing? So it's kind of like finding that balance between be real, but also be kind. You know, be a good role model for yourself. You know. So it's a fine balance. But I think with the nature of what we're talking about, it's you can't get an answer from somebody else. It's just about dialing in your internal awareness. And if that's your practice, and if that's our takeaway from today, because heaps of people were talking about working in, and that's where people must be up to in the course, and that's perfect. You know, a few takeaways would be just to give yourself a check-in. I would say a morning check-in. See if you can keep the first part of the day just for yourself. Especially with so much stimulation on our devices, I try to keep my phone on airplane until I enter into my workspace, and that's not possible for everybody. But I certainly don't want it to be the first thing I look at when I'm waking up in the morning. So I check in for yourself in the morning, get get to know the feelings that are coming through your body as far as reading it, as far as energy. Know that movement can build energy and can give you energy. And if you are really feeling that your life is very full, which is a lot of us, that's not a bad thing. That's the world that we live in at the moment. You don't need to keep adding. We don't need to keep adding more and more. But what we might want to do is start altering our behaviour according to what is most important to us. So according to our core values. And if some of your values are your health and your well-being and your movement practice, then really starting to make that a priority and giving yourself just the tiniest chunk of time per day to do it, and see if you can make that into a new habit to expand your time. Because we can all run the stories, and I've done this before, of saying I don't have time, I'm overwhelmed, and all this kind of scarcity is largely in our mind, because I find that the busier I've gotten, the more I get things done. And I don't know if that's something to be proud of, or if it's just becoming multitasking, because that's the demand of life. But I think if you can get clear on what's important to you, there's going to be time. And yeah, maybe we can leave it there today on the first 2 lessons, and with the next session that we have, which will be in a month's time, I'd love to hear that more people have got started with the program, and then we can take it from lesson 3, from the posture to opening up our body from there, and we can perpetuate through the course. And I think I'd like to do a bit of a movement practice at the start of each session as well, just to integrate. And I'd also love to do anything on programming that people asked. And we've got a beautiful community at our space in Avalon, and I'd really love to be able to offer that something like I'd like to establish a little community with the Awesome Self program, and keep this regular and build some froth that we can all have a hangout once a month and check in with each other and be there to support each other. So thanks for showing up to the first one, and I reckon we'll have more and more excitement with them as they go.